Welcome back to Hardball. Now, 4 states, Vermont, Iowa, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, allow same-sex marriage. And Washington, D.C. now says it will recognize same-sex marriages performed elsewhere. Some on the right are not pleased. Maggie Gallagher is the president of the National Organization for Marriage, and Joe Solemnese is the president of the Human Rights Campaign. Maggie and Joe, here's part of an ad put out by the National Organization for Marriage called Gathering Storm. Take a look.
Some who advocate for same-sex marriage have taken the issue far beyond same-sex couples.
They want to bring the issue into my life.
My freedom will be taken away.
I'm a California doctor who must choose between my faith and my job.
I'm part of a New Jersey church group punished by the government because we can't support same-sex marriage.
I'm a Massachusetts parent, helplessly watching public schools teach my son that gay marriage is okay.
But some who advocate for same-sex marriage have not been content with same-sex couples living as they wish.
Those advocates want to change the way I live.
Maggie, that last soundbite from that woman, those advocates want to change the way I live. Explain to me how they want to change the way I live.
Well, marriage isn't a private act, it's a public status. And when your government tells you that same-sex unions are marriages, it's going to affect a lot of people besides the couple who wants to do it. So public schools, when they teach about marriage, are going to teach that your views, they're going to teach your children and grandchildren that your views of marriage are discarded relics of ancient bigotry. And professionals from faith traditions that just don't recognize same-sex unions as marriages and organizations are going to find that their liberties are curtailed. The heart of the gay marriage idea is that there is no difference between a same-sex union and a union of husband and wife, and that you're a bigot engaging in discrimination if you think otherwise.
Yeah, but
that's an idea when the government endorses it has a lot of consequences.
But I still don't get it how, you know, if the couple upstairs, you know, Ray and Tommy, what do they have to do with my life downstairs?
Absolutely nothing. The couple, Ray and Tommy, have nothing to do with it. I wish them the best. This is about how the government is going to define marriage, and it's going to define it for all of us.
Joe?
Look, what we saw happen in the last week was really, we crossed a very important line here in the fight for marriage equality. In a heartland state like Iowa, they issued a very powerful and sweeping statement that our families and the circumstances of our lives are just like everyone else's, and we ought to be afforded the same protections and the same responsibilities as everyone else. And in the state of Vermont, the legislature not only voted for marriage, but voted to overturn the governor's veto. And what Maggie and her organization understand is that, you know, it's no longer palatable in this country or okay to be an outright bigot. That if you want to deny us these rights, you need to do it by lying and misrepresenting the facts.
This is the way the gay marriage movement is operating. If you disagree with them, they call you a liar.
Maggie, you know as well as I do that the people in those ads aren't even who they were.
55% of Americans in the latest
I can't hear the both. I can't hear the both of you at the same time.
The people in those ads are not even who they portray themselves to be.
That's why on the bottom we say these are based on real incidents, and you can go to our website.
And it would be laughable. It would be laughable if what they're saying was not based in such lies and misinformation.
Okay, Maggie. All right, Joe. Maggie, go ahead. Go ahead.
The executive director of the Vermont Human Rights Commission actually acknowledged publicly that existing religious liberties are not inadequate. This is a really serious issue that, you know, religious liberty scholars of right and left agree. It's going to affect people besides that nice couple upstairs. And I don't think it's honest of Joe to deny that that's the case.
What they've basically said is, since they can't argue this on the merits anymore, and it's no longer okay to argue it on the merits that we ought to be denied our basic rights, what they're essentially implying in this campaign is that somehow other people are becoming the victims, the people that you were talking about, Mike. And the fact of the matter is that not one thing that they say in this ad is true. We've set up a website called endthelies.org that essentially takes this ad apart and calls it out for the set of lies and misinformation that it is. is.
Joe, would you accept, do you think that the religious liberty protections in the Vermont bill were a good thing, or were they just completely unnecessary? And are you, as you push for same-sex marriage in other states, are you going to exempt religious organizations, religious professionals? Will wedding photographers have to do same-sex? No, it did not, Joe, and now you're not telling the truth.
It most certainly did. All you need to do is read the decision, Maggie, and you will see very clearly that
clergy will not be required to perform same-sex marriage.
How much clearer could that be? How much clearer could it be than religious institutions and clery could not be? The question is, Catholic Charities going to be able to run a Catholic adoption agency? Will the Methodists in Ocean Grove get back their tax exemption, Joe? Are you going to go fight for that? Let's talk about the
church in Ocean Grove. Is that California physician who's unwilling to personally inseminate a gay couple?
I can't understand either one of you when you talk over one another. Maggie, let me ask you a question about adoption. You raised the issue of adoption.
I raised the issue of how the government forced Catholic Charities out of the adoption business. That's the issue I raised.
Well, wouldn't you prefer to see a child in danger?
That's not the point. I'm not talking about gay adoption. Of course there's gay adoption if you have gay marriage. There's gay adoption in most places. The question in Massachusetts is, could one single adoption agency run along its own religious tradition and not place children with a same-sex couple? And the government said, no, I don't care how many children you can help. If you're not going to treat same-sex unions just like other marriages, we're going to put you out of business. It's a felony to run an adoption agency without a license in Massachusetts, and they will not give you one unless you agree to place children with same-sex couples on just the same basis as with a union of husband and wife, and Joe supports that.
Joe?
Mike, look, when religious organizations step into the public sphere, it should not be surprising to people that they are bound to adhere to the laws in the states that they are operating in. If you look at the issue that they talk about in the ad, the church in New Jersey that she says was punished because they wouldn't recognize marriage, the fact of the matter is they owned a building that they were renting out for event space. There's a non-discrimination law in the state of New Jersey that says if you're in the business of renting out buildings for event space, you've got to adhere to the laws in the state of New Jersey. That's actually the fact.
No, it isn't the fact.
I
can tell you. No, I don't know it, Joe. Quit calling people liars when you disagree with them. It's just unkind. The reality is in Ocean Grove is there's a tax exemption in the New Jersey, which is specifically for people who let the public use their beachfront property. Okay? And the Methodists have a ministry there. They own property. They were not trying to keep gay and lesbian people from enjoying the ocean on an equal basis. But they have a pavilion. They only permit weddings there. It's against Methodist Church Code to do anything else, and they were stripped of their taxes.
Wait a minute. Let's get away from going to the beach. Let me ask you, Maggie, one question. Why is it that seemingly all of the advertisements put out, largely from people proponents of your side of this issue, would tell someone like me that if gay marriage is enacted in a particular state, they would imply that my marriage would be threatened? I've been married a long time. My marriage is threatened by the baseball season, going to too many night games, but it's not threatened by gay marriage. But why this insistence on trying to inject that fear element into this?
I'm not trying to inject a fear. I'm trying to tell you what's going to happen. I'm not worried about your marriage. I'm worried about your marriage because of the baseball thing. But the reality is that the meaning of marriage will change for everyone. And the idea... this is what I care about. Marriage is the only institution we have that's about bringing together the two great halves of humanity, male and female, so that children can know and be known by and love and be loved by their own mother and father. And if the government moves to same-sex marriage, if the law teaches the next generation, there isn't anything unique about unions of husbands and wives. A lot of things are going to change for a lot of children. Maybe not for you. You and me, we're kind of old. Maybe everything will just go on the same. But marriage will change, and it will change for everyone in the state.
Maggie Gallagher, thanks very much. Joe Solanese, thanks very much. Up next.